We're joined by NASCAR on Fox reporter Bob Pockrass. Bob, welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, and jump right into things. We've had a good couple of weeks in 2024, but for those who might not know you, and that's hard to even believe because you're here, there, and everywhere with NASCAR on Fox. Tell us how you caught the racing bug.
Well, I'm a reporter, and I've been reporting. My first job out of college was at the Daytona newspaper, and so if you're in Daytona, you tend to learn a little bit about stock car racing. And having grown up in Indianapolis, I knew a little bit about racing of the open wheel kind. But then after spending a dozen years in Daytona, I learned a lot about the stock cars too. So been covering Daytona 500s since the early 90s, and since about end of 2003, I've been covering NASCAR full-time for a variety of magazines and websites.
So busy season so far, right out of the gate. William Byron wins the Daytona 500. Then you go to Atlanta, and this past weekend in Vegas. Let's talk about the early part of 2024 so far and your thoughts.
Well, you look... You look at the standings, and I guess it's no surprise. Kyle Larson is on top, and he's a guy that you expected to be one of the best, and you just didn't know how he would get through the first two races. Then, obviously, at Vegas last weekend, he showed that he certainly hasn't lost any speed. Second in the standings, Ryan Blaney, back doing what he did last year, getting the most out of his equipment. And then you got Truex and then William Byron, your Daytona 500 winner. Then I think the biggest surprise, I guess, at least for 1 week, was Daniel Suarez in capturing the big win at Atlanta.
Talk to us. What a finish, by the way. Tell us some fast thoughts from Atlanta last week.
Well, I think I can't speak as fast as the cars cross the finish line for sure when you talk about the third closest finish in NASCAR history at .003 seconds between Suarez and second place Ryan Blaney, and then the closest finish when you talk about three cars involved, just .007 seconds separating Suarez from Kyle Busch in third. What a great moment. That's the way that they wanted that track to race, to be able to go three wide and not have them wreck. You kind of expect, you're like, okay, who's going to wreck who and who's going to end up winning this? And they all cross the finish line unscathed, except for maybe a little bit of frustration from the guys who didn't win. So just a great moment, a great finish to a race that the drivers seemed to enjoy. They said it was fun to have a race that intense, but they certainly wouldn't want to be doing that every week.
Bob, I feel like it takes .003 seconds for something to happen on the track and you to tweet it on my Twitter feed. How are you getting that information so fast? Are you watching the broadcast? Are you listening to in-car audio? I've been curious about your process of a race day.
Yeah, so I'm usually based in the Infield Media Center, so I have the race on monitors. We usually have a couple of different feeds. You usually have like the track feed, which is right. As it's happening, then usually we have the broadcast feed, which depending on how they're getting it to there is, maybe delayed by half a lap, but you want to hear what the broadcasters are saying. And then I'm listening to NASCAR radio. I usually have two scanners going, one that's totally fixed on NASCAR's channel. Let's hear what the officials are saying, and then another where I pop around to different drivers to hear driver crew chief communication.
Heading to Phoenix this week, what does a race week normally look like for you? Obviously, you travel track to track. You're there every week. What is, say Monday, Tuesday, and where does the schedule lead you?
I think I'm just like everybody else. I have Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, right? Obviously a lot of planning goes into our race telecast and our race shows. So we have meetings. Obviously, you're always checking and writing on things. So checking on whatever the news of the week will be, any sort of penalties and that kind of thing. And then once the race weekend starts, Typically, once the garage opens, you're there trying to talk to people, check in with people, monitor tech, and obviously we have interviews set up throughout the weekend as well.
So, new guy in the booth this season, NASCAR on Fox, one of your counterparts, Kevin Harvick. So far, to be honest with you, I've been quite impressed with the insight and knowledge coming from the NASCAR on Fox crew and Kevin Harvick as well. What are some of your early thoughts on the team up there, Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, and the team assembled that you work with at NASCAR on Fox?
Well, I just think what Kevin is able to bring, coming right out of the car and being really the only broadcaster now who's raced the next gen car, right? He understands the strategies of this car. So when we talk about fuel mileage at Daytona and why you do it, he's able to explain it as good, if not better, than anybody else because he's lived it the last 2 years. And he's been in all those meetings that the manufacturers have. So he has a really good sense. He can describe how hard these hits are because he's felt them. And so he's able to bring that to our booth. And obviously having somebody there week in and week out, along with Mike and Clint, gives them some continuity. So if you really like what you're hearing now, just wait another 3 or 4 weeks when they really get in their rhythm, because I think that's going to be really some great thing to have while you're watching the broadcast. And I think you've already got a sense that Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer, they're going to have some fun up there too, and sometimes that fun will come at each other's expense.
I've always been curious, Bob, how the tweet-ups came about. I love that you spend time with the fans every weekend, and I'm sure they appreciate you for all the work you do. What was the first tweet-up? When was it? And how did it come to be what it is today?
Yeah, so both Jeff Gluck and I got on Twitter right when it started in 2009. And I think Jeff pretty much, we were both working at NASCAR Scene Magazine, and Jeff didn't have a lot of responsibilities during an Xfinity race. So he said, I think it was Richmond, I want to say. He was like, hey, I'm going to watch the Xfinity race. If anybody wants to come watch with me, I'll be in this area, this stand. And some fans came over, and I think that gave him the idea. They're like, hey, we should meet before a race or some. And so I think the next week or the week after, Jeff was like, hey, if fans want to meet me, come to this spot. We'll meet and just talk a little bit of racing. And Jeff obviously invited me, being his coworker, to go with him. And that's kind of where it all started. And, Twitter was new at the time, and it was fun for people, and still is, for people to not just talk to us, who they follow, but also meet people that they have interacted with for years now on Twitter, but never met in person. And getting to meet is a joy, is fun for them. So it's a great thing for us as reporters to be able to talk to fans who have maybe just were at the race yesterday, to see what they liked and what they didn't like, to hear what their concerns are, and hear what they really enjoy about NASCAR at any given time.
They're heading to Phoenix this weekend, and obviously over the off-season some testing was done and maybe some changes to the short track package, if anything. What do you think we're going to see out in the desert this weekend?
I don't know. They did do a test. They have changed the underbody of the car. They changed the spoiler. So it's not going to really change the downforce total numbers, but it should impact where the teams are creating that downforce. And the hope is that the cars they'll have a little bit more maneuverability combined with a different tire to be able to, make the passes if they have a car better than the one in front of them. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, Ford and Toyota also have new bodies, so that could impact things as well. I don't think anybody is going in saying, man, this race is going to be hugely different than it was a year ago, than it was in November, but I think they just want to be able to see a driver maybe having more options, crew chief maybe having more options on how to tune the car in order to be able to make the pass. But, it also could come down to pit road. I won't remind my new teammate Kevin Harvick that last year he was in control of this race. In the late race caution, he took 4 tires, and about 6 other guys took 2, and William Byron ended up in victory lane.
So it seems like every manufacturer kind of goes through struggles. A couple of years ago, the Chevys struggled. A couple more recently, the Fords struggled. Are the Toyotas struggling right now? It seems like they really had a tough speed weeks, and they've kind of just been maintaining. Am I a little off base there, or does it seem like Toyota has an issue?
No, I don't think they have an issue. They haven't qualified maybe as well as they would like, but I think they've raced well. Frankly, I'd probably be a little bit more concerned if I was Ford than Toyota. I think that you look at Christopher Bell, blows the tire and has a bad day, but you figure he would have been up there close to the front at Vegas, and Toyotas were have 4 of the top 8 even without Bell. So I'm feeling good if I'm them. Ford's had 3 of the top 9, but Keselowski didn't have a great day. He's a guy that you would expect, and Briscoe was strong, but kind of had some issues and faded late. So I'm probably maybe a little bit more worried if I was Toyota or a little bit more worried if I was Ford than Toyota.
We saw a couple good runs at Vegas from guys you might not normally see. Hocevar had a solid day. Noah Gragson got a top 10. Who's a dark horse this season that you think can make a solid shot at the playoffs?
That's a great question. When you look at a dark horse, gosh, could Todd Gilliland,
Yeah.
I mean, the way he ran the super speedways, you got to figure that he's going to have a couple more. You only got 2 more in the regular season now that Atlanta's moved in the playoffs. But you got to figure he could have a shot. I don't know that week in, week out he'd be able to point his way in. But if you look at the standings. This early, I think you look and you see John Hunter Nemechek is at 16th in the standings. He certainly knows how to win, having proved that in the other series. He does have a year of Cup experience from about 4 years ago, so he would probably be, after 3 races and looking at somebody, he'd be one I would look at as a possible surprise.
Been speaking with Bob Pockrass, NASCAR on Fox reporter. Bob, final question I have for you. What's one of the things you thoroughly enjoy most about your job from week to week?
Well, I like people, and I get to see a lot of people, from race fans to people in the industry to crew members, and so I just love being able to see people, and I got into this business to give people information and hope to say that hey, if they either want to spend time at the racetrack or don't want to spend at the racetrack, maybe I have a little bit of influence on how they might spend their money and their time. And so it's just great to meet people who rely on you a little bit to make those decisions.
NASCAR on Fox reporter Bob Pockrass joining us to kick off the show here tonight. Bob, I can tell you I will probably see you in Talladega and then New Hampshire, so looking forward to talking to you soon at the track, and appreciate the time tonight.
Thanks, Miles. Appreciate it.